I used to be the kind of girl who laughed too loud and stayed out too late, and never once believed that the world could be genuinely cruel to someone like me. I had everything: a family that loved me, a life full of warmth and color and people who felt safe. I was 22 years old, and I was completely, absolutely happy. And then I fell in love. And the people I trusted most decided that my love was a problem they needed to eliminate. Not the boy, not the relationship, me. They took my mind first, then they tried to take my life. What they did not count on was my college friend walking through the door of that hospital. They did not count on the boy surviving, and they absolutely did not count on what happened when we both came back. I need to tell you this story from the very beginning, because it starts beautiful, and it needs to start beautiful so you understand exactly how dark it became, and exactly how bright the ending is. Stay with me. This one is going to stay with you. My name is Zara, and before everything happened, before any of what I'm about to tell you, I want you to know who I was. I grew up in a home full of warmth. My parents were successful. My father ran a business. My mother managed the family with the kind of quiet grace that made everyone around her feel safe. We were not just wealthy. We were genuinely happy. The kind of happy that does not come from money but from people who actually love each other. I was their only child, their everything, and they were mine. I was not a serious girl. I was the girl who danced in the kitchen at midnight, who dragged her friends on road trips with no plan, who laughed at everything and worried about almost nothing. Life felt like something given to me freely, and I intended to enjoy every single corner of it. My parents had extended family, uncles, aunts, cousins, who were always around, always at our table, always welcomed with open arms by my father, who believed completely in the goodness of family. He believed in them the way only someone who has never been truly betrayed can believe in people. That trust, his pure, unguarded, absolute trust, is what they used against us. But I am getting ahead of myself, because before the betrayal there was the love, and the love deserves to be told properly. His name was Ahan. I met him in my second year of college. He was not what my relatives would have called a suitable match. He did not come from money. He came from hard work. A middle-class family, a scholarship student, the kind of person who had earned everything he had with his own hands and expected nothing from anyone. I did not care about any of that. I never have. What I cared about was that he made me laugh differently than anyone ever had. That he listened when I spoke. Really listened. Not waiting for his turn, but genuinely taking in what I was saying. That when I was with him, the world felt quieter and fuller at the same time. We were together for 2 years before I told my parents. I knew they would love him. They had always told me that character mattered more than background. And when they finally met him, I was right. My mother cried happy tears. My father shook his hand for a long time. It was the happiest I had ever been. And then word reached my relatives. My uncle, my father's eldest brother, came to our house 3 days later. He sat across from my father and spoke for a long time about family values and suitable matches and the importance of keeping wealth within the family circle. He wanted me to marry his son, my cousin, a boy I had grown up calling brother. My father politely declined. He believed the conversation was over. It was not over. It was just beginning. What happened next was so calculated and so gradual that I did not see it happening until it had already happened. My relatives began visiting more frequently, always kind, always smiling, always bearing food and gifts. But in the quiet corners of those visits, when my parents were not in the room, came the words designed to break me. Whispers about Ahan, that he was only with me for my family's money, that he had been seen with another girl, that people were talking, that I was embarrassing my family by being so blind. Drip by drip by drip. Each lie small enough to be dismissed, but together building something heavy and dark inside me. Then Ahaan disappeared. One day he simply stopped answering. His phone went dead. His apartment was empty. His college friends told me he had left suddenly. They did not know where. No explanation, no goodbye, no note. I did not know then what they had done to him. I did not know he had been shot and thrown into a river. I did not know they had paid people to make it look like he had simply left me. All I knew was that the person I loved had vanished, and the voices around me were already saying, "We told you. He used you. He was never real." I broke, not because I believed them, but because I could not find him, and not knowing, not being able to reach him, not being able to understand. That not knowing was its own kind of torture that I did not have the strength to carry. My parents watched me fall apart and they did not know what to do. And my relatives were right there, ready with a solution. My uncle arranged everything. A private psychiatric facility on the outskirts of the city. He told my parents it was the best in the country, that Zara needed professional care, that they were doing the right thing. My parents believed him completely. They sat with me, held my hands, told me this was temporary, just until I was better. My mother cried when she left. My father could not look at me. They did not know what they were leaving me inside. The doctor assigned to my case was a man called Dr. Rajan. Calm, professional, always speaking in the measured tones of someone with authority and expertise. My parents trusted him immediately. He was exactly what my uncle had paid for. The medication he prescribed was not designed to heal me. I did not understand this at first. I was already broken. The grief of losing Ahaan had taken something from me that I did not know how to rebuild. The pills made me quieter, slower. The world behind thick glass. I stopped fighting. I stopped asking questions. I stopped being Zara. Weeks passed, then months. My parents visited regularly, my uncle always accompanying them, always speaking for me, always managing the conversation with Dr. Rajan in ways that kept my parents reassured and kept me isolated. I was 22 years old and I was disappearing. And then one Tuesday morning, on a day that looked exactly like every other day, a woman walked onto my ward that I had not seen in 3 years. She stopped when she saw me, and I watched her face change the way a face only changes when it recognizes something that should not be there. Her name was Nadia. We had been friends in college, not the closest, but real friends. The kind you share notes with, eat lunch with, call when something funny happens. She had become a doctor. She had just been transferred to this facility as a new senior resident. She told me later that the first thing she felt when she saw me was confusion, because she did not understand what I was doing there. The second thing she felt was alarm, because I did not look like myself. And the third thing, the thing that changed everything, was a quiet, cold certainty that something was very wrong. She could not approach me directly. Not at first. Any visible connection between us would have triggered Dr. Rajan's suspicion. So she did what doctors do. She reviewed my case file, quietly, systematically, as part of her routine ward familiarization. What she found in my medication records made her hands shake. The combination of drugs being administered to me was not a treatment protocol for any recognized psychiatric condition. It was a chemical suppression regime, the kind used in extreme cases to sedate severely violent patients, being administered to a 22-year-old girl who had presented with grief and emotional distress. Long-term exposure would cause irreversible neurological damage. She was not treating me. She was ending me, slowly, quietly, in a way that would look like my condition had simply deteriorated. Nadia came to my room that night after the ward was quiet. She sat beside me and took my hand and spoke very softly. She told me what she had found. She told me she was going to help me. She told me to trust her and to tell no one. It was the first time in months that someone had spoken to me like I was a person who mattered. I held her hand, and I did not let go for a very long time. What Nadia did over the following 6 weeks was one of the most precise and careful things I have ever witnessed. She could not change my official medication records. Dr. Rajan would notice immediately. Instead, she substituted my actual doses with harmless alternatives during the hours she was on shift, documenting the official record exactly as before. She was risking her entire career, her license, potentially her freedom. She did it without hesitation. As the real medication left my system, I came back. Not quickly. The damage that had been done needed time to reverse. But slowly, day by day, the glass wall between me and the world began to thin. I started remembering who I was. I started thinking clearly. I started feeling again. And with the feeling came the rage. Nadia also contacted my parents. Carefully, privately, she called my mother from a personal phone, introduced herself as my college friend who happened to be on staff, and asked to meet for coffee. She did not tell them everything immediately. She built it slowly, the way you build something that will need to carry enormous weight. My parents arrived at that coffee meeting believing their daughter was receiving excellent care from people who loved her. They left knowing that the people who had recommended that care had been trying to kill her. My father did not speak for a long time after Nadia finished telling him. Then he said, "Tell me everything, every single thing, from the beginning." And Nadia told him. While Nadia was helping me recover, and my parents were beginning to understand the truth, something was happening somewhere else that none of us knew about. Ahan was alive. My relatives had paid 2 men to take him somewhere quiet and put a bullet in him. They had done it. 1 bullet. His shoulder, not his chest, because even hired violence is sometimes imprecise. They had thrown him into the river afterward, certain the current would do the rest. It did not. A fisherman found him on the riverbank 3 hours later, half drowned, bleeding, barely alive. The fisherman was an old man who lived alone and asked no questions. He took Ahan home. He called a local doctor. He fed him rice and kept him warm and asked nothing except that he rest. Ahan spent 4 months recovering in that small house by the river. He had no phone, no money, no way to reach me. He did not know what had happened to me after he disappeared. He knew only that the men who had shot him had been hired, and that they had something to do with the family of the girl he loved. The moment he was strong enough to stand without help, he started walking back. He had been searching for me for 3 months when Nadia found him through a contact she had made while investigating the full picture of what my relatives had done. She called me into her office on a Friday afternoon. She closed the door. She sat across from me, and she said, very quietly, "Zara, he is alive, and he has been looking for you since the day he could walk." I did not make a sound. I just sat there while something that had been broken in me for over a year began. Slowly, painfully, completely, to heal. We did not act in anger. That is the most important thing I want you to understand about what happened next. We acted in complete clarity. Ahan and I, my parents and Nadia, 4 people who between them had everything we needed. Nadia had the medical evidence, the medication records, the financial trail between my uncle and Dr. Rajan, the expert clinical opinion she had obtained confirming the treatment was designed to harm, not heal. Ahan had the men who had shot him. One of them, when faced with the choice between loyalty to my uncle and a criminal conviction for attempted murder, chose to talk. He talked for 3 hours. He named everyone. He gave dates, locations, amounts paid, everything. My father had 30 years of trust in every financial record he had ever shared with my uncle, records that now told a very different story when read through the lens of what we knew. And I had my voice back. We went to the police first, then to the press. Then, and this is the part that still gives me something I can only describe as a deep, settled satisfaction. My father called a family gathering. Every relative, every aunt, uncle, cousin who had sat at our table and eaten our food and smiled at our faces while knowing what was being done to us. They came expecting a reconciliation. My father stood at the head of the table where he had sat for 30 years. He looked at his brother for a long moment. Then he placed a folder on the table. He said, "I have spent my life believing that family was the one thing in the world that could not be corrupted. You have spent your life proving me wrong. Read what is in that folder. Then you are welcome to explain to the police waiting outside which parts are not accurate." My uncle reached for the folder. My aunt started crying before he had opened the first page. Dr. Rajan was arrested and struck off the medical register. My uncle and 2 of his associates were charged with conspiracy to commit murder, medical fraud, and criminal assault. The men who had shot Ahan received their own charges separately. Not one of them walked free. Ahan and I got married on a Sunday in October. Small ceremony. Just the people who had loved us when loving us cost something. Nadia was my maid of honor, the fisherman who had pulled Ahan from the river. We flew him in and seated him in the front row. He cried through the entire ceremony and told us afterward that it was the best day of his life. My parents danced together for the first time in what felt like years. My father held my face in his hands before he walked me down the aisle and said, "I am sorry I did not see it sooner. I am sorry I trusted the wrong people." I told him, "The right people were always in this house. We just had to find our way back to each other." That is the thing about surviving something designed to destroy you. It does not just leave you intact. It leaves you clearer. It burns away everything that was never really yours and leaves only what is real. My love for Ahan is real. My friendship with Nadia is real. My parents' love for me is real. Everything else, the relatives, the lies, the hospital, the slow, quiet attempt to erase me, that is ash now. And I do not think about ash. I think about Sunday mornings and dancing in the kitchen and being completely, absolutely happy again. If this story reached you, leave me a comment. Tell me what stayed with you. Tell me if you have ever loved someone that completely and been made to feel like that love was wrong. And if you are new here, subscribe. Because every week on this channel, I bring you a story about people who were broken by the ones who should have protected them, and who found their way back anyway. And I promise you, this was only the beginning.